second.
There we go. Okay.
Hey, we've managed to get everybody
Finally.
in. Hello, everybody. We had gremlins. I don't know whether it was AI, but we definitely had gremlins. So hopefully everybody, yes, that's what I feel like doing. Hey, we're in. So I do apologise, everybody, but that's technology for you. And I know that we all had those same issues during COVID, but it looks like it's hit CIPP today when we're talking about artificial intelligence. Who knows? Maybe somebody was watching us, but I'm sure that both Julie and Adrian will put our minds to rest when we start the meeting today. So I do apologise. It's a big apology from the CIPP. We did have those little gremlins, and I saw some of you posting those little gremlins in the chat. But anyway, so let's start. We won't hold you up any longer. And hello and welcome to the CIP's National Payroll Week for 2025. Way! Great! So it's a really exciting time. It's where we celebrate all things payroll. So I know there's lots of events going on. So join them and be part of this National Payroll Week. So my name is Diane Hudless, and I am the Head of Compensation Benefits for TFG brands here in London. So today we're going to be exploring the future of AI in payroll, and I think we may have just had some kind of gremlins earlier, so who knows. With our speakers, we have Julie Lally from CIPHR and lovely Adrian Goddard from CIPP. So we're going to ask you to submit your questions at any time using the Q&A tab. So please don't put them in the chat, but use the Q&A tab, which you'll find at the top of the screen. But if you do accidentally post them in the chat, don't worry, our events team will transfer them to the Q&As. And you can upvote questions. So the ones that you're more interested in, you can upvote them so we can look at those after the slide presentation, and that will help us prioritize them. We'll address any questions at the end of the session. And now I'm going to hand over, not before time, to Julie and Adrian to introduce themselves.
Thank you very much. So everybody, welcome to the future of AI in payroll. Thrilled to have you all here for National Payroll Week. I don't know what everybody's doing, but I just have to say it was really interested in the other meeting chat, seeing what everybody was doing for National Payroll Week, Adrian. That was quite entertaining. And what a great bunch of people, just keeping the entertainment flowing while we were really struggling with Teams. So a big thank you to everybody for helping us out with that. Yeah. So Adrian.
So yeah, just really quickly, again, thank you everyone for your patience. Really appreciate that. And I think there were one or two comments. AI has not taken over, so that's not what's happened today. Just to give you that extra assurance. But yeah, I'm Adrian Goddard. I'm the commercial director from within the CIPP. I've been in payroll for the last 13 years. Worked for various software managed services vendors in supporting the payroll profession, from accountants to bureaus, SMEs, all the way through to enterprise level. But personally, I'm also father, married 17 years, father of 3 teenagers. And yeah, I really love music, love playing the piano and going to the gym.
Hi everyone, I'm Julie Lally. I'm the Managing Director of the Payroll business here at Ciphr. I'm 32 years in the payroll industry and don't think I would ever work in any other industry. I just love it. I see my role as I'm here to make payroll professionals' lives easier. That is my job, ultimately. So great to have you all here today. And Adrian, do you want to tell us a bit about what we're going to be doing in this session?
Absolutely. So look, there's a lot of noise we know about artificial intelligence, and AI is still a very new concept to many people. Some, I'm sure on this call today, probably veterans use AI maybe on a day-to-day basis, but I think especially as a part of the payroll profession, there's a natural level of cautiousness around, such technologies and what it could mean in regards to data integrity and compliance, etc. So today, really, what we're going to be exploring is what AI actually is, debunking some myths around AI, being able to really categorize the different forms of it, and also to translate what it actually looks like within the payroll profession and the direction of traveling that we're going in. So yeah, I do encourage you. We've had a number of these talks before. multitude of questions. I encourage you, post any questions. We will answer as many of them as possible. By the end of this, we want you to leave with a greater level of confidence around this emerging technology.
Thanks, Adrian. Just to introduce Ciphr, for those of you who may not have come across us before, we serve our customers by providing technology and services to help HR and payroll departments. So we do everything from recruitment, onboarding, HR, payroll, learning content. We can develop that bespoke content. We have an e-learning platform, a benefit solution, and ultimately we can take care of an employee life cycle from start to finish. My passion in this business is the payroll side. So if ever you want to talk to me about that, my door's always open. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm more than happy to have a chat with you.
Yeah, and just look, a lot of you will already know of and about the CIPP, but just to kind of paint on a picture quite vividly, there's 6 key areas of our institute, and it's really all about learning, supporting the payroll profession, equipping the profession for what's happening now and what's to come, and that varies across membership, training, qualifications, events such as this week, for example, and it's all about ensuring that you can strengthen your infrastructure and really support your careers and your organizations and also the government with how we operate as a profession.
Okay, thank you, Adrian. So what we'd like to do is debunk a few myths. So we were at a round table, one of CIPP's round tables, with some payroll professionals, some people from the tech industry, and we were talking about the AI or the emerging AI technology. And there was a clear split in the room of people who perhaps are more used to using AI in the workplace already, who were quite comfortable, and there were people who were terrified. And at one point, we did have the comment of I've watched iRobot, and I will retire before I let AI anywhere near payroll. And whilst that's quite amusing, it did teach us something, and it taught us that because AI is an emerging data science and people don't know too much about it, and most of what we hear about AI in the news or in social media is quite negative. But what we needed to do really is educate people on how technology companies are going to be leveraging AI in payroll, just to take the fear out of it, really. So we thought we'd start just with some headline news, because these are the kind of things I get asked an awful lot. Historically, whenever we've developed
Juliet,
features,
sorry. Just really quickly, just for anybody who hasn't seen iRobot, by the way, it's whereby humans develop technology and robots to be able to support them and serve them. And then basically, there was a rogue robot who then decided to, in essence, turn against humanity. So yeah, it was just the assurance that we want to give everyone the confidence about AI not taking over payroll, so to speak.
Adrian. So yeah, I mean, traditionally, when we've been developing features in payroll products, we've never historically been asked, what kind of technology are you using? What tooling are you using to create a new feature? This is very different, because AI is an emerging science and everybody's interested. And of course, we want to leverage as much AI as possible where it makes sense to help with the accuracy of payroll. But there's kind of this misconcept that we're going to be taking data out of the payroll system, we're going to be sending it to the other side of the world, AI is going to be crunching it, that data then becomes public. And that's not how you use these kind of tools when you're designing a payroll system. So anything that we do is contained within the payroll solution. So it won't be exposed to the World Wide Web. I get asked a lot, is it going to take my job? I think it will change the way we form payroll departments, because we'll have some of these AI agents almost as administrators. But no, we're always going to need those payroll experts who really understand legislation, understand edge cases, where legislation can mean something completely different in a particular scenario. We're always going to need that. But with any technology, change comes. So yeah, things will change, but it will definitely make our lives easier, right?
I think I saw something recently, Julie, where it was the whole concept, and that is an ongoing question. Will AI take my job as a payroll profession? Well, I saw an interesting statement from somebody. It said, AI won't take your job, but those who are equipped to utilize AI may do so.
Yeah, that's a really good shout, actually, and that's true, because it is changing the shape of kind of recruitment. I think traditionally in payroll, we've always said, haven't we? Everybody fell into payroll. I think, like Jason said at the event at the launch last night, you fell into payroll, but you're all still here. So we clearly love doing it. But we're going to be tapping into the tech space now for careers in payroll. So people that have really got themselves educated in how AI agents work, you're going to be looking for those kind of technical people in the not too distant future to be part of your payroll team, for sure. Yeah. And yeah, look, everything that we do is designed to make payroll more accurate, to free up time. And I doubt there's anybody in this session who hasn't got a wish list of things they would love to do and implement at work, but you never get the time, because payroll can be a big time hoover for mundane, repetitive tasks. So if we can lift that, then that frees people's time up to do those strategic pieces of work, and it gives time back to invest in that quality.
So that's such a great point, Julie, because like you said, there's so many things that paraprofessionals would like to do, like you said, that they may not have the opportunity to do because of these, mundane tasks. And actually, this seems like it's a great opportunity for us to be able to really elevate payroll, in that if we do leverage AI, at least in the right way, it then, like you said, gives that freedom to add that additional value to organizations and elevate the status, in payroll, and bring it more to the forefront as a more strategic type of operation, and to help to steer the direction of an organization.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and we'll come on to the kind of cool things that are on the horizon for payroll that we've never been able to do before because of those time constraints and processing data, large volumes of data, that's been prohibitive.
Okay, so it is a big question, in reality, can we trust AI, Julie? I think I still remember, it was about 2 years ago, all the noise around, Chat GPT, and, everyone was like, what? Even I was asking at the time, what on earth is Chat GPT? What's everyone going on about? And it was one of those early emerging platforms, where people were utilizing AI to the extent where now, I can see, and I posted about this recently on LinkedIn, it's quite clear a lot of people now, when they're posting, they are actually using AI. They're using it for imagery, they're using it for the content that they're writing and things like that. So it's gone from but I think the key thing is, and it still stands, I think, that there are a lot of questions around that data security. And I hope that people are not putting quite secure data into these open platforms where it is unprotected. But it is a question, where is it trustworthy? Is it protected?
So there's kind of two different angles there. So if you're using open platforms like ChatGPT, that is just exposed to the World Wide Web. Anything you put in there then becomes available to anybody else using ChatGPT, and that's just how it grows its knowledge. What you're finding now is, in most organizations, AI policies are starting to emerge. So technical teams and the InfoSec teams are getting together to come up with their own internal usage policies. So you've got other tools like Copilot from Microsoft that If you're a Microsoft user as an organization, then Copilot won't expose your data out to the World Wide Web. It just keeps it contained within your own organization. But that's just one type of AI. And there's lots of different types of AI. And the best way to look at them are like tools. So which tools do you want to use? And when we're using AI tools, we're in control of where that data lives. Can we keep it contained within our own platform? And when you're designing payroll systems and you're looking at using AI, you're never going to use any of these open tools that send your data out and expose it to the World Wide Web. They're just not the right tools for that type of technology. So yeah, is it secure? Depends what you're doing. So if you've got a payroll solution and your payroll provider has introduced some AI features, they'll give you the reassurance on how they've developed them and how they guarantee the security of your data. If you're just day to day using things like ChatGPT, then no, is the answer, quite frankly. So yeah, trust your payroll provider that they know what they're doing with the how to use AI tooling in payroll, would be my advice. We do know what we're doing.
I think it is important though to like you said, to ask the question. Any payroll solution provider or service provider who's utilizing AI, they should be able to answer those questions and give the confidence to any professional who's utilizing it. And if they're not able to answer those questions, then maybe that's a serious consideration for the utilization.
That would be. I would expect any payroll provider would be holding webinars, would be doing that handhold walkthrough of how the agents have been constructed, how they work with the data, how the security works. I would just expect that as a given, really. Yeah. And if you've not had that, do ask the question. Yeah.
Okay, so is it all the same? Let's break it down.
Definitely not all the same. And this will really kind of help. So several types of AI. So first one I want to talk about is predictive AI, because that is relatable to payroll. Basically, all predictive AI does is takes huge amounts of historic data, more so than we as humans could ever consume, or fit in a spreadsheet that wouldn't break. It takes masses of data and it learns the information and it cleans it, it formats it. And then once it's done that, it can start to analyze the data. So it can start to look for patterns. And those patterns can then identify when something doesn't appear on the surface to be right. So that's how predictive works. You've then got RPA, so robotic process automation. Best way to look at this from a payroll perspective is if you think about the workflow of your payroll cycle and all the different things that you have to do every pay period, it's the same thing that you do. It's just different answers because your payroll's different this month. RPA can sit across your payroll platform and it can take all those workflows and automate those processes. And we'll come on to give you some real world examples of that shortly. Then machine learning, that's an interesting one. So machine learning focuses on building systems that can make like a prediction or a decision based on new information that it's received. And again, we're going to talk about how we can utilize that in payroll. Then you've got generative AI. So this is an interesting one. This is what gets the bad press on social media, where you start to see videos that are clearly not real. I think the first one I came across was Kamala Harris being 9 months pregnant, holding hands with Donald Trump walking down the beach together, and I think that's the first one I ever came across on social media and thought, oh my goodness, and it just did look so real, even though you knew it just absolutely couldn't be. But that's what generative AI enables us to do. And if you think about you know, when people are, if you are needing to write a report or build a presentation, you can, you know, go to Copilot, ChatGPT, and that will help format the data and pull the content together. That's this kind of thing.
I think with this one in particular, with generative AI, we saw that very much in the payroll profession a number of months ago when everyone was posting those payroll dolls.
Yes.
You
Yeah,
know, there was that trend. I think it was around springtime or something like that, and everyone was using generative AI to create these models. And you know, I think you talked about like 3 key things about themselves in the model packaging and stuff. I chose a superhero myself, so I thought I didn't want to be a doll. But that's an example as to even right now how in our profession how we have been utilizing generative AI. And even with the different definitions that you've got, and I know we'll go through more detail how it translates to payroll, but a lot of these things, as we're going through them in the definitions, I'm hoping that some people will be able to see on this call their solutions or how they're operating. They're actually using some of these things, or in maybe in various ways that it may already be showing up in some of the platforms that they're utilizing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And whenever you see anything like this where you've kind of got a bit of fun going on in social media, or you know, immediately we start to think, oh, hey, hang on a minute, let's delve into this. Is there anything in it for us, you know, from a payroll perspective as well? And we'll come on to some kind of cool things that we're able to do. And then you've got natural language processing. I think that this one, everybody probably uses some form of a Siri on their phone rather than be typing things out. They can just ask questions. That's what natural language processing is. So it's where AI can understand what a human's saying and is able to then respond back with either a verbal or a textual response. So they're the different types, and we thought it'd be cool to kind of share with you how those different types of AI could actually lend themselves to helping you guys do your day job, you know, and your teams. So Adrian, the first one was predictive AI, and you know, we took a deep dive at this, didn't we, and looked at, okay, if we can get an agent, an AI agent, to really understand all that deep payroll history that we have in our payroll system for our organization, and it learns patterns and it detects it, you know, how can we then leverage that to help the payroll team? So we were talking about detecting fraudulent patterns, and this one's never a nice subject to talk about, is it, in our industry?
But unfortunately, it's a reality. You know, you're right, it's not nice to talk about, but it does show. That's why we have like AML checks and various things like that, because it does show up at times, you know, in payroll.
Yeah, it's sad when it happens, but sadly it can happen. But it's for AI to be able to consume so much data that the human brain just can't possibly do. It can detect something that just doesn't look right in a way that a human can't, you know. I think when fraud gets detected in payroll, it's usually because the person who's doing it makes a mistake and they get caught, as opposed to somebody saying, hey, that doesn't look right, you know. So yeah, detecting fraudulent patterns, definitely.
And I think where this helps as well is that, you know, again, with whoever is reviewing the payroll, whether they're reviewing a payroll summary or whatever report they're evaluating, comparing various periods and things like that, you know, they may well be experienced to have a keen eye to be able to identify, oh, that doesn't quite look right. I should delve a little bit deeper into that and then peel away at the layers of it. But if somebody maybe isn't as tenured or experienced to be able to identify those kind of things, this is where I guess AI can play a part in giving that extra layer of sophistication to the payroll infrastructure.
Definitely, 100%. The next one is touching on something you were talking about earlier, Adrian, when we were saying, you know, if your time was freed up from the mundane tasks, how much more beneficial could the payroll department be to the board? And the next one is one of those. every single organisation, no matter what they do, has peak periods, okay, where the pressure's on and we need to ramp up with extra labour usually. Being able to predict labour requirements based on, again, years and years worth of history, rich payroll history, and be able to just serve up, you know, based on the last 10 years of productivity as an organisation, here's the labour requirements we think you need. And AI will be able to identify that.
I think it will help to facilitate really interesting conversations as well. So like, you know, at SLT level, you know, you usually will have those conversations around resource and labor requirements within an organization, and many times translate that against performance, also tying it in with whatever your strategic canvas and whatnot might look like. But without the understanding of the intricacies that sit behind certain elements of the payroll or implications for various types of roles, it can, in essence, make it a little bit vaguer in regards to forecasting and predicting what that cost implication might look like, and how to really optimize the workforce, I guess. And payroll professionals usually are one of the few individuals who have access to all of that data and who have all of that understanding to be able to give clarity as to what those implications might look like when various decisions are made. And again, that's just one example as to how, you know, we can help to elevate payroll even further in the workforce, in it being more a part of those strategic types of decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, to be able to, you know, productivity is one of the biggest issues in the UK. We know that. We know as a country we really struggle. And it's because we don't have this kind of data. And once you've got the data, to ask somebody, say in payroll or finance, to go comb that data, you know, groom it and be able to come up with a predictive labour requirement, that's a really tough ask. Because the data that you need to do that is huge. This way we can absolutely automate that. The next one for me, finding unusual payments. I could reel off so many examples, right, of where why didn't a variance report pick this problem up, you know, because the problem happened 2 pay periods in a row, you know, and you hear that, you see that. This would identify those types of issues, and it really would be able to find those unusual, unexpected, or unpredictable payments. And everybody needs to make sure that we're checking for duplicated bank details. Well, AI can do that for us too. So there's just some kind of good examples of where predictive AI could really help day to day in payroll and elevate payroll as well. With the RPA, anything that you do, every single pay period, you know, can we workflow this through RPA? It's types of things like getting data into the payroll system, whether that's through CSV files, whether that's through APIs. Let's get that scheduled, let's get that automated. That's one less task for somebody to have to do. And then we always have to send payroll data to other departments. Some of you will have to send out reports to various people around the business. We can schedule them for generating the reports and getting those sent out. And that just reduces the amount of paper shuffling, even though you're doing it electronically via email usually. But just removing those kind of repetitive tasks that you need to do.
I'd imagine this one, Julie, out of all of them, RPA, I'd imagine that potentially might be the most familiar to people, in that, you know, just seeing various elements of that with workflow type modules that sit within various solutions where they are able to automate a number of tasks. Probably more so on your kind of simple, repetitive, you know, payrolls where there aren't any variances or anything like that. But nonetheless, I'd imagine this will probably be one of the more familiar ones to our audience.
Yeah, I'd say so. And you're right, you know, lots of products have like workflow modules to help just pass one process forward to the next. Yeah, so you're right. Yeah, people will probably be most familiar with those. Then we've got machine learning. So how can we use machine learning? So this for me is the low-hanging fruit. Getting AI to evaluate variance reports, looking for errors, again, knowing that it can go back over all that rich history and just look for anything that feels out of the ordinary. And frustratingly, as a payroller, every now and again, you do get anomalies that mean your RTI files or your BACS files aren't balancing back to your payroll journals and you're not quite sure why. The machine learning can figure all that out and just serve up, here's why it's not balancing. And that can save hours of time trying to find an error.
I think a good translation for this would probably be, like we've talked quite a bit already about like ChatGPT as an example. It's probably a familiar example for some who have delved into AI. But even the fact that if you think about how ChatGPT learns about you as an individual, learns about your like writing style, learns about, how your tone of voice, and various things like that. I think machine learning would lend itself to payroll applications in that kind of way. Like what you're saying in regards to identifying the patterns, etc. It's learning about, well, how does your payroll process actually flow? What are some of the inaccuracies that usually occur, whereby it can learn and be able to intercept and identify them and support you in accordance to what your specific requirements are.
Absolutely right. And we kind of think, if you run 6 weeks or 6 pay periods retrospectively, that's enough for machine learning to get a grip of a pattern. It's that quick. But then when you think about it, it's going to have access to all your history.
Yeah.
How clever can we grow this to be? Yeah. But ultimately, it helps us to get payroll more accurate, and that's what we all get up in the morning for.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, the generative AI, this is the one that gets the most allergic reaction, I tend to find, particularly when we've done where we did face-to-face road shows on this year on the whole of AI, and this one people get a little bit icky at. But because it can understand a human's question, so again, kind of think Siri, how about having an agent that can take the pain away of having to explain information on an employee payslip? So interactive payslips, they've been around for probably a decade now, and where you can kind of, log into your self-service, hover over something on your payslip, and it'll kind of explain it to you.
The funny thing is, though, even with that technology, right? The funny thing is, like, again, when we've been on these road shows, probably still the number one question that payroll professionals are getting asked is, "Can you explain this on my payslip? What does it actually mean?"
Yeah.
And it can still be very repetitive.
Yeah, and it's kind of, it is repetitive, and you're limited with interactive payslips because it's all text based. And so you can only really plan to give one type of a response, whereas with generative AI, you can converse. So if it gives you an answer on your payslip and you don't understand it, you can go back again and get, right, okay, let me ask the question a slightly different way, or just say, I don't really understand this bit, But that's one that people get a little bit nervous around, because the general feedback from the profession is, what if it gave the wrong answer? And I get that. So I'm not here to say whether it's right or wrong, or whether people should or shouldn't, embrace that technology, but it's coming, and
I think it is this one in particular for me, I think is quite a difficult one, because especially when something goes wrong with payroll, right? I think it's and the implication on somebody's pay, especially if they get underpaid, the emotional aspect, and what sits behind that. You could have somebody in tears, like, or anger, or whatever kind of form of strong emotion somebody is experiencing, and then to really trust AI to be able to navigate that kind of conversation, and be able to settle an employee. I think for
Yeah,
me, that does leave some, significant question marks in, would we really want technology to manage that side of things and to manage that kind of conversation? Or do
yeah,
we want more of a human touch in what that interaction looks like to give an employee the assurance? Because really and truly, all it takes is one bad pay experience for an individual, and they could potentially be out that door.
yeah.
So I think this is quite a sensitive one for me, I think.
It is really sensitive, and I do understand the sentiment of the industry on this one. And if somebody's upset, anxious, there might be a deeper conversation you want there that you're not going to get with generative AI. Just that kind of emotional well-being
Yeah.
kind of support that you're just not going to get. So yeah, I kind of agree on that one as well. The other thing Gen AI can do is help with how we communicate out to employees, and that can save heaps of time. You can just converse with Gen AI and just say, look, here's what I want to communicate out to the staff. And it'll build you a beautiful communication. And also setting the tone of voice for your organization. Everybody talks, texts, writes emails in their own style. But if you want to be kind of on brand as an organization and culturally have a way of communicating out, it can really help set that tone of voice as well. We use that internally. We called ours Tony. The tone of voice, I know.
Yeah.
This is why I'm not in marketing. And but yeah, it's great. I can just put an email together and just not have to spend 20 minutes really thinking about it. I can just construct what I want to say, pop it into Tony, and it comes back beautifully written in Ciphr's tone of voice, articulating it far better than me. Just saves so much time. It's fab. But yeah, super helpful. And natural language processing, so for chatbots to answer payroll queries, again, that's kind of Marmite. Some people are up for that because they get so many queries, they'd be quite happy if they assist. Others, again, nervous about what if it gave the wrong answer. But you can kind of control what intents it can answer, and then hand off to the payroll team if it doesn't have the answer. Possibly I'd expect to see chatbots to become more popular in more of a service centre type of payroll environment rather than internal payroll teams, but who knows. And yeah, enabling employees to have conversations with the payslip, as we were discussing earlier, and just helping to explain payroll. If you're a payroll professional, you get it. If you're not, you definitely don't. You understand there's a gross pay. You have to give some money up to the government. You've got to tuck something away for your retirement, and then you've got your net pay. That's pretty much what people tend to understand about payroll. So if they are uncertain, particularly around things like when back pay gets processed and stuff like that, if they, that's when you can really have this technology step up and field all those kind of questions rather than them all funnel into the payroll department.
I think this would add a whole lot of value especially for like a global payroll operation. Especially if you've got your kind of central HQ hub for what governs the payrolls globally and whatnot, and if there are any kind of global communications besides the in-country communications, and just to support that whole translation, those additional languages and that consistency as to or give you that confidence that things are being communicated across the organization in an accurate way. In a way that that fits the context of whatever is going on in that country as well. If it can support those kind of things, I think it would be quite impactful from a global point of view.
Yeah, and in the multicultural society that we live in today, even on home territory, it may just break down some barriers, in some organisations where communication can be quite challenging. you know. So yeah,
I
that's
actually
how
had
it's
that
gonna
recently.
help.
I went to Prague recently, and we went to like a big swimming place for the youth, and there's just that language barrier. And I
Yeah,
thought, I'm just gonna type it in ChatGPT and sure,
yeah,
and they got it straight away. It's like, imagine that with with what you want to communicate for pay. Like you
yeah,
said, whether it be locally, people who speak different languages, or whether it be globally.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So,
Okay.
Adrian, you wanted to cover these, didn't you?
Yeah, just a few discussion points. I think it'll be quite interesting to talk about when it comes to AI. I think one that jumps out to me, or what'd be good to discuss, is who really owns it. Within an organization, who do we think actually owns the utilization of AI, or have we even got that far, as an industry, as to understand, who's in that position?
It's emerging now. You're starting to see businesses, organisations coming up with their own AI policies. It's normally the tech team, so your IT department, in conjunction with InfoSec, if indeed
Okay.
they're not one of the same, you know.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where, and that is where it does need to sit. It shouldn't sit in payroll. This is technology. So yeah, the usage should be governed by tech and InfoSec.
Mm. I think with all of this, actually, you just reminded me of a thought. With all of this, I think spending so many years supporting payroll professionals with technology, I think one thing that we also have to consider is every organization has its own process flows, its own culture as to how it manages, its pay and its communications and various things like that. And sometimes the challenge that can be faced is that new technology can be adopted, but old processes and workflows and various things be maintained. So I think it's especially at this transitional moment in our industry, I think it's very important for us to have the kind of mindset of really rethinking and
Mm,
reimagining what does payroll actually look like within the organization, and actually how can we operate in a totally different way if we needed to, if it's for the health of the organization
yeah.
and for the health of the employees as well. Instead of trying to, for example, fit a lot of the things that we've talked about here about AI into old or maybe archaic processes,
Mm.
whereby potentially we could break the technology to try to retrofit an old way of working.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think, I think payroll people are really, really good at change because, our industry evolves every year, right?
Mhm.
We get legislation change every year. So we're used to it. We are massively risk averse.
Mhm.
So we're a really hard bunch to talk to about making change because you can, rather than
Yeah,
we
yeah,
have to. We are, because we're risk averse. AI is not a flash in the pan. AI is here, and businesses now are heavily investing. I read an article on HR Grapevine a couple of weeks back, where an organisation gave everybody an entire week off the same week. So they shut the company down for a week, and that
yeah.
week was to be spent going away and learning something about AI that could be useful in that organisation and bring it back
Oh wow.
into the
Okay.
business. I mean, that's an extreme one, but
Yeah.
but we're all doing it.
Mm.
We're all wanting to push the boundary because, my goodness,
Yeah.
if we could leverage AI to save us so much time that we desperately need to reinvest back into the business, why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we do it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think the question of compliance is an interesting one. And I think it's not an easy answer, that one, with, can AI help with compliance? I definitely think it can help with compliance, and especially I especially say that as we obviously support the industry from a compliance point of view with our policy team and the work that we do with government. I think though there's a difference with it supporting with compliance and the difference between that perception and the perception of you using and looking at AI as authoritative. And I think that's where it can become a bit dangerous if we don't look at it in the right way. Because if in essence we put all of our trust, for example, in the AI's instruction, there is a potential risk that actually it isn't how do I put it? Let's just say up to date with the latest compliance, or even translating, what that compliance means in real term in regards to how it reflects within that payroll provision. And I think there's still a lot more work that needs to be done from an AI point of view in regards to mitigating things like AI hallucinations and things like that, where it actually has the ability to create things that don't exist. I've seen it myself firsthand with my own utilization of it, where it's just created something and I've tried to reference where it's come from or, its existence. It doesn't actually exist. It's just bundled pieces of information together and created something for me to try and give me an answer. And that's where we've got to be careful in that as a payroll professional, really the onus is on the profession to ensure compliance and not relinquish that and see AI as the authority, or at least not as it stands today.
Yeah. And it's way too soon to even be kind of considering how it can help us with compliance. I mean, of course, you can ask it a random question on what did I have one? I think it was somebody was, rather than go to the manager and ask, oh, that was it, yeah, how do I correct a P11D? Customers come to me saying they've made a mistake, how do I correct it? So they just went on to Copilot and got the full instruction, followed it, and it worked. It depends what it is. I think compliance right now is just something that really needs to fit with the payroll software developers and the government agencies, and we're still reliant on software developers to keep us compliant.
Okay. Conscious of time,
Yes.
should we just quickly whiz through the end of this and then try and answer one or two questions if we can?
Yeah. So Adrian, what skills are employers now hiring for? What are you seeing in the market?
I think especially from the work that we've been doing with recruitment organizations like the likes of Portfolio, JJ Hayes and whatnot, what we're seeing is that there is the emergence of, AI requirements, but it's not as such that it's become standard. So I think, again, we're still potentially some way off. Maybe 2026 we might see some difference in regards to the requirements from organizations for those skills, in having AI experts or people equipped with understanding what AI looks like within payroll. But nonetheless, just to tap into the question in the bottom right hand corner, from a CIPP point of view, we've geared up to support payroll professionals, in this transition and preparing them from a knowledge point of view and to enable them to transition successfully with adopting this kind of technology. So even conversations like this, where we're talking about AI and payroll and sharing the knowledge and the understanding. But a key one as a more of a deep dive for payroll professionals is our payroll management diploma that we've just released. The first enrollment's next month, and one of the modules, our module 2 in particular, is very much geared around the future of payroll technology when it comes to AI, payroll robotics, a lot of the things we've talked about today, but goes very in depth and really equips the payroll profession for what's to come and to support them, for the next generation of payroll.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was one of the questions that came up was, where can I learn more about this? So that's a great answer there. And then on the kind of the summary of the session, then really basically what we're saying is AI, and somebody else has asked this, what does AI stand for? It stands for artificial intelligence. So AI is simply computer science that allows us to build out new features. But we can contain what it does within the software, and we don't expose data out to the World Wide Web. It's not going to replace our wonderful payroll professionals, but it will change the landscape of how we work, you know.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it will help you. It will help you, though. Yeah.
Let's just whiz through some of these questions then, right? So,
Yeah.
got Calvin asked us roughly how long before we can expect to see AI tied into payroll provider offerings, and do you expect it to be an add-on or embedded in the base offering? I think from my perspective, we're already seeing some tech organizations within the payroll industry release AI within their platforms. I think it's gonna be kind of like the transition from desktop to SaaS. It's going to be a gradual evolution that we're going to see probably over the next, 5 to 10 years, I would say, before it becomes absolute standard. Like today, you would expect more so as a standard that a payroll provider has a SaaS solution, that you can access online and various things like that. That's the place where we'll get to with AI. I'd imagine, no, we potentially might get there all the more quicker.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I'd agree. I mean, yeah, there is AI tech out there now. Would I expect to see it as an add-on? That's going to be a provider by provider, case by case. My personal opinion is there should never be hidden surprises in payroll software pricing. I'm a firm believer in that. So I just see this as enhancement. But I can't speak for everybody.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Fiona's asked here in regards to just basically with little experience, where do you start in regards to your search for AI? I think from my point of view, I think the first starting point is education. Again, just sitting on things like this, just understanding what are the actual intricacies of AI, what are the different types of AI and this, technology and automation, etc. I think once you've got a good understanding as to what it looks like, it should probably then evolve into the conversation of you speaking to whether it's your own payroll vendor or whether it's you just generally looking around in the marketplace to see what level of AI technology is out there, and really just exposing yourself and considering as much as the technology is available, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's right for your organization and for your payroll infrastructure. So what do you actually need? What are you trying to achieve? How do you want to reimagine how your payroll function operates? What's right for your business? And then aligning that with what's available in the marketplace, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And there's an interesting one that I'll just summarize this one. But with all the issues with data protection, it's a really good question. How is AI governed and sharing and learning of information? How do organizations protect themselves from data being released? It's a brilliant question. So if I could just break that down. So this is where we're starting to see organizations come up with their own AI policies. So this is where the information security team work with the IT department, if they're not one of the same, to come up with internal usage policies. We have them ourselves already. I mean, we have to be ahead of the game because we're a tech company, but that ultimately is how it will happen. The interesting part is how do organizations protect themselves from data being released? So this comes down to usage policies internally. So for example, we at Ciphr don't use Chat GPT, but we do use our own Microsoft Copilot. And that is an explicit instruction for all our employees. So that's how we protect data from not getting out, so it is about usage policies. It's about training and education as well, making sure that people understand as they start to use these AI tools, that they really understand what is happening while they're using them. So it's an education piece that needs to happen as well.
All right, last one I think we've got here from Steve in the Q&A, just basically speaking about if AI is explaining communications and whatnot around the payslip, doesn't it potentially move payroll to the back office and towards more so the admin side? And how do we ensure that the payroll operation is really coming to the forefront? I think, to be honest, I think Steve, from my interpretation, I think it'll probably be the opposite, to be honest. I think it'll probably be the case of the technology taking on more of those kind of back office kind of, processes and operations, and actually giving paraprofessionals the freedom to be able to move forward and come to the forefront and add value in different ways within the organization. And that's why it's a case of the profession really considering and thinking about what does adding more value look like to business? I think the payroll profession is not going to disappear, right? I think the payroll profession is probably one of the oldest professions out of all of them that exist, right? Because, from the earliest point in time, people worked and got paid. It might not have been in money, it might have been in livestock, right? But, the payroll profession is probably one of the oldest professions, and it's not going to go anywhere. But what's important for us to do, I think we've seen it, for example, in the HR space as well, right? From moving to what personnel to HR to then people type roles. It's a similar evolution in what we need to do from a payroll point of view, in how we reposition ourselves to be able to add more value to the organizations that we work with. Would you add anything to that, Julie?
No, I think that was perfect, Adrian. Yeah, I think it's spot on. Yeah.
Okay. All right. If there's any more questions in the chat, I think we'll have to get back to you because conscious of time. Thank you, everybody who has stayed on. Diane, I'll hand over to you to close off.
Yes, thank you, Adrian and Julie, for a fantastic webinar. That was brilliant. And one thing I would say, if we didn't evolve, we'd still be living in swamps. So, just some of us who've been in payroll a long time can reflect at how we were many years ago using spreadsheets, green terminals, etc. So we should embrace AI and move forward with it. So we've answered those questions, which is great. Any questions that are unanswered, the team will get back to you. But I have something exciting to tell you. We have an offer for a special promotion for National Payroll Week only. So it's a one-time offer that if you use code NPWMEM, so National Pay Week MEM, as in members cut short, when joining as a new member, if some of you aren't members currently, you'll get a 20% discount on your first year's fee, plus we're waiving the £50 admin fee. So, but this applies only to you new members. So it's great that we'd like to get you on board so you can have more of these events and get part of the CIPP family. But renewals will be at the standard price. So if you want them to know more and see what else we have on offer, then you can email the membership@cipp.org.uk, as this offer actually isn't available online. Again, if you've got any sort of questions, membership will be there to absolutely help you around what we have on offer. And if you haven't registered yet for those additional webinars this week, you know how great this one was, even though we did have a few technical problems. But let's keep that between you and I. Please visit our website and sign up to those today. So please enjoy your celebrations and don't forget to tag us in social media posts of all the exciting things that you are doing this week. And we saw them as you were keeping yourselves busy with those conversations while we were sorting out those gremlins. And have a fantastic National Payroll Week. So I'd like to say thank you and goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.